Hello, dads. Hope you're doing wonderfully well today out there. Today, I want to take a little moment and do a longer style of video because I want to talk to you about something that's really essential and I think often overlooked in parenting. And this is the idea of building resilience in our kids, equipping our kids with the skills and the tools and the abilities and the heart and the mindset to be able to embrace hard things and bounce back from failure and from getting things wrong in our lives. Because the reality is our children are going to face difficult circumstances. They're going to be faced with challenges no matter how big and how small they are. And their ability to be able to handle failure will be really, really crucial as they grow through life. And I believe that it's one of our greatest responsibilities as dads to be able to help our children develop the strength to handle that failure in a healthy, faith-filled way. So I want to talk about three powerful ways that you can build resilience in your kids. And the first one is this. The first one is being able to redefine failure. That failure is not the end, but it's only the beginning. And sometimes, as parents, we got to reflect on our own attitude and our own experience of failure and how we view failure. So sometimes we need to shift that perspective and redefine that for ourselves before we even begin to teach our kids. But just point number one, it's not the end, it's the beginning. And as dads and as mums and as parents in general, we have it within us that we want to protect our kids from pain and from disappointment. So it's only natural that, there's part of us that wants to protect our kids from experiencing failure and experiencing that struggle and those hard emotions that can come with failure sometimes. But the truth is, and we understand this as adults, is that failure is one of life's greatest teachers. And you'll have seen this in your own life because I'm sure as an adult you failed many times, and there's many times maybe where you've felt the heaviness of failure. And there's also been many times in your life, I'm sure, where you've experienced growth from failure, that it's been a stepping stone to something more, that it's helped you understand God in a deeper way, or to trust Him more, or you've learned how to do something better. And that's the point, is that failure builds resilience, it builds perseverance, and it builds character. It's often not the end of the story, it's the beginning of the story, because it's the beginning of learning and it's the beginning of growth. I had a mentor before that said, failure is an opportunity for growth, and that's something that's always stuck in my head. And that ties in with Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, and he famously said this: "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that it didn't work." I've found 10,000 ways that it didn't work. I haven't failed. And I think that that's the mindset that we want to have as adults, but we also want to instill into our kids, that failing in something is a stepping stone to something else. It's a stepping stone to something greater. There's a really famous book, you've probably read it out there. It's a book on mindset, and it's called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, and it's by a girl called Carol Dweck. And she talks about two types of mindset: a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Now, the growth mindset is the belief that abilities can be developed through effort and learning. So the more effort you put in, the more you learn, and the more your ability grows. And the opposite of that is a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is where kids believe that they're not good at something. And if they're not good at something immediately, that they'll never be, that there's no opportunity for growth, there's no opportunity for development, that's the way they are, they're stuck, they're fixed. But one of the, what we need to do as parents is to encourage the growth of this growth mindset within them. And one of the most effective tools that we have to be able to develop this growth mindset is the language that we use. Language carries weight. Language has power. I'm sure we can think of times in our lives where people have said something to us or spoken things over us as kids, and we've held on to that, and that's became part of our own identity, our own belief system of who we are. Someone told me a story recently there that when he was at school, him and his friend got stood up in front of class, and the teacher pointed at them and said, "You'll never make anything of yourself." And you think about those words that are spoken over us that hit deep, that we hold on to, and they seemingly have some sort of power over us. So language has power. So the words that we use can shape identity, can shape perspective. It can bring light and love and lightness into the world, or it can destroy. So first of all, what I'm saying here is we got to become aware, dads, of the language that we're using currently. Is it a language of love, or is it something else? But to build this growth mindset into our kids, we gotta take our eyes off praise and outcome and praise who they're being instead. Take our eyes off praise and outcome and praise who they're being instead. So what does that actually mean? Instead of saying, thank you for tidying your room, that's great, you did that really well. Maybe you'll say, I'm really proud of you, how you persevered and got through that. You worked really hard. And that simple shift, it teaches our kids that effort matters more than perfection, that effort matters more than the outcome, that who you're being and how you're showing up is more important than the task, because ultimately it is. Ultimately, we want our kids to show up powerfully as themselves, to have that freedom to be who God has created them to be. So we affirm in them not just what they do, but who they're becoming. Our words begin to shape their identity. And we want their identity, yes, to be built on God and what God says to them, but we want them to know that who they are doesn't really matter about performance, but it's about the ability to be able to persevere, to push through when things are difficult. And the Bible puts it like this in James chapter 1, verses 2-4. Consider it a pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance, therefore, finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything. Let me take out a part of that. Because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. When we're going through difficult challenges in our life, our faith can be tested. But it's through the testing of our faith that the fruit of that is perseverance. So when we persevere, we become mature and complete and not lacking in anything. So God uses our struggle to grow us. God uses it to make us whole and complete. When we persevere, when we push through, it makes us whole and complete. And it's that perspective that we need to pass on to our kids. Point number 2 is this. We got to model resilience in our own lives, lads, dads. We've got to model it out because our kids are always watching us. Kids will watch what we do. They'll respond more to what we do than what we say. And that's so crucially important, that if we want our kids to be resilient, to be overcomers, to persevere, to stand in faith, then we must model that out ourselves. We have to show them what it looks like. Because they're looking at us when things go wrong in our own lives. They're looking at how we handle pressure. They're looking at how we handle stress. They're looking at how we handle failure in our own lives. So when life hits you hard, How do you respond? How do you react? Whether it's in your career, whether it's in your health, whether it's in your relationships, how do you react? Are you modeling that out to your kids? Um, and there's a part of this that's really, really important, because I've seen this in some parents that I've worked with as a therapist, is that sometimes we want to hide those things from our kids. Now, everything, in perspective here, in terms of, we only want to show our kids what's relevant to them at their age. But often as parents, we want to hide the struggle. We want to put on this persona that everything's great and everything's rosy in the garden. But that isn't teaching our kids the reality. And our kids will pick that up anyway. Our kids are great at picking things up. But we want to teach our kids that the reality of life is wonderful, and there's difficult things, and we must persevere and have the faith and have the resilience to overcome failure and difficulties and challenges in our life. So don't hide it. Let your kids see you wrestle with things. Let your kids see you pray about things. Let your kids see that perseverance and see that hope that you have of new things coming, because they're always watching, they're always seeing what's happening in your life. So Paul writes in Philippians 4 verse 13, he says this: I can do all things through him who gives me strength. And that is such a powerful Bible verse. It's one that I've carried with me, and many other people carry with them throughout their whole life. But it's more than just a verse that you put on a lunchbox or put on a card. It's a model for how we live. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. Where does your strength come from? For me, in my life, time and time again, when I've tried to do it on my own, I've hit brick walls after brick walls. And it's only when I come back to him that I garner this strength to be able to do the hard things, to be able to persevere. My strength comes from God. And that's the model that I want to live more from and live out for my own kids. So we're trusting God. We're trusting God when life gets hard, when life is smooth, when life is difficult. In all circumstances, we're trusting God. We're leaning into God, because that's where our strength comes from. Another thing that you can do with your kids is to share your stories, to be vulnerable, to be open, to be real, to talk about times where you've maybe got it wrong, where you fell short, but talk about what you've learned from it. Let them know that failure didn't break you, that the challenge didn't break you, but it actually molded you and it shaped you. That's how they learn. That's how they learn that failure isn't something to fear, but it's something to actually welcome into your life and to grow through. Last point is this: we got to reframe the struggle as a path of strength. So one of the most powerful things we can teach our kids is to ask questions. Again, as a therapist, I used to teach this to my clients. One of the most powerful ways you can shift your perspective or shift how you feel is to ask yourself a different set of questions. Because often when we're struggling in life, we're asking repetitive questions that we've always asked ourselves to keep us in a feeling loop. But teach our kids to ask questions. Teach our kids to ask when things get difficult, when they fail, when they don't do things when they don't achieve things that they wanted to achieve. Get them to ask this question: what can I learn from this? What can I learn from this? And even begin asking yourself that question yourself, because that's helping you reframe failure. It's helping, by the sheer fact of asking that question, you're going to get a different set of answers and therefore a different set of results. When you ask that question, you're open to growth, you're open to learning. You are communicating that you know that it isn't a dead end, but that it's a valuable part of your own growth story, and it opens up opportunities for the next steps to be able to be taken. You'll learn something new about yourself. You'll learn something new about the world. You learn something new about God. What can I learn from this? So when your child messes up, when your child falls short, when it doesn't meet a goal, don't rush in to fix it. I know that's probably your natural desire, but don't rush in to fix it. Pause for a moment. Resist the temptation to rescue them. Breathe through your nose and instead guide them through it. Ask them reflective questions. Affirm the character that you see within them. Affirm the courage that you see within them. Affirm the perseverance that you see within them. And show them that their worth isn't tied to outcomes, isn't tied to what they achieve. Their worth is not tied to getting something. They are valuable and they are worthy because they are a child of God. So show them that, demonstrate that, ask the questions, and ultimately lead them through that. Because we want to raise kids who understand that failure is actually a stepping stone and not a sentence. It's a stepping stone into more. It's a stepping stone into growth. Mistakes don't define them, but how they respond to mistakes, how they respond to failure ultimately does. And remind them God is always at work. God is always in the middle of all of our messes, standing there, championing, I can't even say that word, standing there, calling us on, cheering us on, waiting for us to turn to Him. Every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every setback is a place where God's grace is available for us, where God's grace can shine through. God's power is more prevalent when we're in those places of weakness. So dads, here's the call. Here's the call to action. Here's what I want to see. I want to see us become fathers who raise resilient kids. That's it. I want us to put in the effort to raise resilient kids, not by shielding them from struggle, not by avoiding failure, but by walking them through it, by mentoring them through it, by modeling overcoming failure and overcoming challenges in our own life, to model that strength, to be speaking life into them, and to show them the failure's never the end. It's just part of the process of becoming who God has created them to be. Listen, I hope and I trust that was helpful for you. Thanks very much for watching if you watched all the way through to the end. And if this message resonated with you, I want you to leave a comment. Maybe you could answer the question, how do you help your kids become more resilient and build resilience? And yeah, if you know a dad in your life that you think this might be helpful for them to watch, then share it with them. And I will see you in the next video. And remember, we can raise a generation of kids who are grounded, who are strong, who are faith-filled, and who are resilient. And remember, dads, you've got what it takes. See you in the next video.